Hello, welcome to the second episode of Computer Music Practice Examples, CMPE, and my name is Joo Won Park. In this episode, we are going to learn how to make the RMHS app. I'm gonna show you a step-by-step process of creating an app that generates a drone based on a detuned Overtone series. So if you have not seen it yet, it's best to look at what we are actually going to create. I have a website that's linked that shows you a kind of album length of the musical examples, but also shows how to use that app at the end. Okay, so but today's goal is to learn how RMH was made, and when you go to this website www.joowonpark.net/CMPE, you are going to be able to download all the files that you need to follow along. So two things you need to download or even have or have an access. One is this slideshow. It's a Google slide, and it will have interactive links to see the code and the diagrams. Second one is this thing, the link to CD files. This will give you an access to all the supercomputer files that I used in this slideshow. And if you are a supercomputer user, you can open them up in supercomputer and basically follow along as you watch the slideshow. So before we go any further, it is important for you to review and learn what the format that I'm going to use. And if you go to the CMP introduction page link, you're gonna go to the very first slideshow slide I actually made that explains what all these diagrams mean, what kind of a format that I'm going to take. So I encourage you to pause this video as often as possible to learn and understand and relearn. But also, it's consider this video as almost like a quick demo. But if you really want to make good thing out of this series, it's important to take your own time to understand the diagrams and the codes that I'm going to show you. Okay, good. All right, so let's start by creating the synthesizer. So before we do that, this is why I make the diagrams. So our goal is to go through this creative process that I talked about in the previous episode. We're gonna start with the synthesizer, and then we're gonna create a loop or the sequencer that plays the synthesizer, and then we are going to create a little function or a series of presets that chooses the parameters that sounds more artistic and musical from this loop and the synthesizer. Now, the way we can interact with the computer or the musical instrument, there are many ways, but for this example, we are going to concentrate on interacting with the computer using a GUI, a graphical user interface, but also we are going to use we're gonna let the computer to choose certain values of the function by using a random number generators. So I'm gonna cover the other two in the other examples, but today we are going to cover the GUI and the random number interaction. Okay, so now the very first sound. You're gonna start with the simple amplitude modulation on a using a simplest sound we can think of, the sine wave. So here, although the diagram may look a little complicated, all it does is that it creates a little sine wave oscillator where I can control frequency, and a modulator where I can control the amplitude of it, modulate amplitude, and then make a little amplitude modulation. When you multiply one signal by another arithmetically, what you're doing is you are doing a amplitude modulation. So here I'm gonna be able to control as a user, as you will see in the code. I will be able to control the amplitude, the overall loudness of the tone, but also the frequency of the sound that I'm being heard, the pan position, left to right position, but also the duration. Okay. So here, all it does is that basically creates a very slowly moving amplitude modulation that starts and ends with this envelope. So here, this is a superpolarized wave envelope, and what it does is that it basically creates a little envelope that looks like this, and it's going to be our shape of the our general amplitude. Now I can control the duration of the sustain time and the release time. A drew times 0.5, A drew times 0.5. It's gonna go from almost 0 to 1 because this is an exponential curve. So it's gonna sound something like this. You hear very, very slight change of the amplitude. That's your attack. Little amplitude envelope, amplitude modulation, and then quickly going away. Okay, nothing so exciting, but this is our starting point. What we are going to do now is try to find a way of playing this. So consider this as like a one note, but I want to create a chord. Okay, I wanted to create a chord that resembles an overtone series. So if my starting frequency is 50 hertz, I want to create an overtone series that goes like 50 hertz, 100 hertz, 150 hertz, 200 hertz, and so on, up to 10 times. So I'm going to create a little loop, and loop repeats things that is inside. So whatever that's inside this loop will get repeated with certain rules. So here I'm going to basically create a chord with the 10 notes in it. Okay, and for now my panning position and duration will be 10 seconds and in the center. Now the frequency of each note will be different though. So here is the how I'm going to determine the frequency. I'm going to get a counter, okay, which will count from 0 to 9 when I have a 10.2, and therefore counter plus 1 will be counting a number from 1 to 10. So my first iteration will have a counter this value of a 1. Second iteration will have a value of 2. Then we can multiply by 50, meaning that my first note will be 50 hertz, 50 times 1. My second note will be 100 hertz, 50 times 2, and 150 hertz, so and so. Now, as I increase the number, the overtone series in numbers and the frequency of those each note, my volume of the overtones will get decreased using this equation. The amplitude 0.2 times this. So try to imagine what's going to be going on. So let's say this is like a two thirds, and in my first run, it's going to be 2/3 divided by 1 multiplied by 0.2. My second run will be 2/3 divided by 2 multiplied by 0.2. Third, 2.2/3 divided by 3. So every run in overtone will get decreased amplitude in general. So what it's going to create is the blue line you see in here. Instead of every overtone in here, let me see if I can. Okay. So every overtone you're gonna see you create will have 2/3 of the amplitude from its previous one. See here? So first one will be this loud. My fundamental frequency could be this loud, 50 hertz, and then the next one will be 2/3 of that, and the 150 hertz will be 2/3 of 100 hertz in terms of amplitude, 200 being 2/3 of the 150 hertz. So in a way, you are going to create a sound that emphasizes on the fundamental frequency. Let's hear that. Okay, as opposed to the red one in here, which has equal amplitude for every frequency, every overtones. Comparison A. which one sounds better? It really depends on your taste, but for this piece, I like the decreasing amplitude in relation to the increase of the overtone number. Okay, so that's basically what this V amp equals 2/3 divided by counter plus 1 does. Yeah. So now from our single tone, now we have a code that turns the single tone into the loop. So here I have a supercollider code that you can run. Right, I think you're something like this, 50 Hertz, right? But using that, my loop will create a, let's use the 50 here, okay, so that we can change. Now we can create a little bit more interesting tone, a little bit more, right? We are not even there yet to actually make it more interesting. So in the next video, I'm gonna show you how to turn that simple instrument into something like this and make a more complex sound. So I see you in the next video.